Aegon will be king again. And you'll be dead.
Helaena Targaryen, the dreamer of House of the Dragon, just became Helaena the Spoiler Queen in the Season 2's finale. She has put her dragon dreaming ability on display since her very childhood, and in the last episode, she reveals to Aemond that he was gonna get off soon. Well, too bad she didn't say if it was gonna be in Season 3 or 4. Helaena has always been the odd one in the Red Keep, but, you know, for all the good reasons. She usually kept herself busy saying all weird things that made sense to no one around her. Well, cause, you know, they didn't quite read the book or analyze everything the show had to offer. But now we know that there's a lot more to Helaena than a bunch of weird words put together. So I'll briefly discuss Daemon's weirwood tree vision later in the video, but I'll keep the focus on what she told Aemond about his death and, you know, how it's inevitable. So let's begin, shall we? Oh, and if you like our content, please consider subscribing. It may be a small click from you, but it helps us in a million ways to keep bringing you this sort of content. So for perspective, I will quickly take you through the events that led up to Helena's big reveal to Aemond about his grim future. After learning that Rhaenyra got herself 3 new riders, Aemond knew that he had to prepare himself. He also learned the hard way that he wasn't invincible. So he came to Helaena and asked her to ride Dreamfire into battle when the time comes. Of course, she protested, and to her defense came Alicent. Aemond leaves in frustration, but returns to Helaena with a more peaceful and submissive approach. When he found her, she was pretty much lost in her vision. What was this vision? Well, several hundred miles away at Harrenhal, Alis Rivers took Daemon to the weirwood tree, where he touched the bloody sap oozing out of the tree. As soon as he does this, he's thrown into several visions, which include dead dragons, the army of the dead, a ball of fire shooting down from the sky, a young Daenerys and her dragons, etc, etc. Well, it was here that Helaena revealed her presence to Daemon, as real as she could be. She tells him that he was but a small part of a much larger story before Aemond finds her. You see, she was present in 2 places at the same time. This was such a beautifully done shot, and not something that we get to see a lot in contemporary shows or, you know, movies. Anyway, Aemond asks her to ride Dreamfire for Team Black, but she refuses and asks if he would burn her like he did Aegon, her brother, husband, and king. Aemond initially tries to refute the claim, but she tells him that he saw it all. How he burned Aegon using Vhagar before letting him fall. It was a miracle that Aegon survived, but that's not all. She tells Aemond the exact nature of his death, how he would be swallowed up in God's eye and would never be seen again. Aemond gets the shock of his life. Up until now, people only presumed that he had a hand in Aegon's predicament, but now there was someone who knew exactly what happened, and this person was his sister. More importantly, he just learned about his end. So yeah, that was also something that shook him up. Now, whatever Helaena said about God's Eye, it's all quite true, and remains grounded in the source material, George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood. So what exactly happens in the book? Now, we know that Daemon is presently stationed at Harrenhal and has assembled an army of the Rivermen, but he would not stay here for long. Since the show is taking courses that are different from the book, I'm not sure how he would leave Harrenhal, but he surely would at one point and, you know, help Rhaenyra in taking over King's Landing. In fact, he also sees her sitting on the Iron Throne in his vision. Anyway, after Daemon leaves, Aemond swoops in and reclaims Harrenhal for the Greens. It is here that he meets Alis Rivers, the woman who helped Daemon find his path. Now, I don't think this is gonna be happening in the show, but Aemond and Alis would come very close. He would take her as his bedmate, but by this point, the Greens lost several battles and castles, including King's Landing. So naturally, Aemond gets like super pissed and goes on a whole "I'll burn all the black" settlement spree and leaves Harrenhal. Meanwhile, Daemon and Nettles began their search for Aemond on Caraxes and Sheep Stealer. Oh yeah, Nettles was the dragon seed, much like you and Ulf, who was cut off from the show. It now seems like Rhaena would be riding Sheep Stealer, a wild dragon who looks very different from the regular dragons, at least as far as Sheep Stealer Sailor's wings pattern are concerned. Coming back, Daemon and Nettles could not find their target, and Rhaenyra started becoming paranoid about dragon seeds because by now, Ulf and Hugh had betrayed the Blacks in favor of the Greens. Additionally, Rhaenyra was told by Mysaria that something was up between Nettles and Daemon. She sent a word to Maidenpool to have Nettles killed, but the news reached Daemon, and Nettles was given safe passage. After this, Daemon arrived at Harrenhal once again, where he waited for Aemond after challenging him. It took 14 days, but Aemond did arrive at the sunset of the 22nd day of the 5th month of 130 AC. Oh, and when he did, he had a pregnant Alice Rivers by his side. Here, they exchanged a few words before mounting their dragons. Oh, and Aemond seemed so much in love with Alice that he planted a very passionate kiss upon Alice before leaving. He probably knew that this could be his last day alive, and that this was his last kiss ever. Even if he didn't know what his fate was gonna be, he has a heads up from Helaena in House of the Dragon. They say that the duel between Aemon and Vhagar on the one side and Daemon and Caraxes on the other was a sight to behold. As I mentioned earlier, the battle started nearly around dusk, so the sun was setting when the two dragons took flight. They say that the shrieks and the roars of the dragons could be heard from several miles away, and the dragon fire was so bright that small folk feared that the sky itself had caught fire. It didn't take long for Caraxes to slam into the massive she-dragon. Caraxes locked his jaws on his opponent's neck. I'm assuming this stopped Vhagar from unleashing her flames on Caraxes. However, this also meant that Caraxes could not hold his own and remain in the air. Naturally, both dragons descended from the sky. Meanwhile, Vhagar tore one of Caraxes' wings as she opened his belly with her claws. But mighty Caraxes did loosen his grip on Vhagar's neck, seeing that the battle was nearly done because his dragon had been grievously injured. Daemon leapt from his dragon and on to Aemond. He drew Black Sister, his Valyrian steel sword, and plunged it into Aemon's eye socket, immediately killing it. With her rider gone and hurt beyond repair, Vhagar began going down and took Caraxes with her. The two dragons and their riders crashed into the God's Eye Lake, and the crash was so powerful that it sent a pout of water high enough to match the Kingspire Tower of Harrenhal. It is believed that neither man could have survived that, but here's the thing. Daemon's body was never found. On the contrary, Aemond was found many years later, still chained to his saddle, and Dark Sister lodged into his eye. They also recovered Vhagar's skull from the water and brought it to King's Landing, where it was put on display. On the other hand, Dark Sister was returned to House Targaryen. In the aftermath of the battle, both sides lost a formidable dragon and a potent commander each. Interestingly, Daemon and Aemond Targaryen were both warned by prophetic visions and faced grim fates at Harrenhal. Alice Rivers tells Daemon of his impending death upon his arrival, while Helaena, with unusual clarity, warns Aemond of his death at the God's Eye. The aftermath of their legendary clash, Daemon disappearing, Aemond's body found years later, strapped to his dragon in the lake, echoes the haunting precisions of these predictions. Helaena, usually cryptic in her prophecies, shows a stark evolution in her abilities, because, her past visions were really hard to decipher. I mean, for instance, the cryptic words about Aemond losing an eye or Otto Hightower's manipulations. Her latest prophecy to Aemond is startlingly straightforward, no longer just hinting at dangers. She tells Aemond directly about his fatal end in the murky depths of the God's Eye, marking a chilling advancement in how she perceives and communicates her visions. This change hints at a more interesting path for Helaena in House of the Dragon, as her powers grow stronger and warnings more ominous. So, in the book, she commits suicide after falling into depression. But, I think she's picking herself up in the show. Don't you agree? So, no matter what, I would love to see more of Helaena and the things she has to offer to the show. I happen to be a supporter of Team Black, but too bad Rhaenyra won't survive, cause that would be a massive change, and, an unwelcome one. However, I do want Helaena to survive, fingers crossed. So that ends the video, and if you liked her content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks everyone!